Welcome to the evening village walk. I'm just taking a walk in the evening because this one feels very therapeutic. I sometimes come here and as I told you, there are no people, so I'm just relaxing my mind. Now, a friend of mine who lives in the UK has just called me and told me to go to the UK because he says that I am a professional and I can make a lot of money in the UK with my profession. Now, me being a nurse, those who have not watched my videos, I am a BSN, a bachelor's degree nurse. He tells me that they earn a lot of money in the UK, and if I go there, I can make a lot of money. Now, this person is not a nurse, but he tells me that I should travel there. Now, I don't know if the information I read about the UK is different from what people tell me, because what I know about the UK is not what people are telling me about the UK. Because what people tell me about the UK is when you go there, you will make a lot of money, then you will come back. You know, the reason why we go to foreign countries is to make a lot of money. Then when we make a lot of money, we come back, then we retire in Africa. But is that the case? According to what I read, no. And again, in my village, if you come to my village, nobody has ever gone to the UK and come back. We have so many people in my village who went to the UK so many years ago. None of them ever went there and come back. And so that confirms that what I read about the UK sometimes, it is true. I just want to talk about it, and I want my viewers to help me understand. Do I have false information about the UK, or what people tell me is actually the truth? The first thing I usually read about the UK is visa renewals, because I know that when you go to the UK, you are not a citizen. You have to go with a skilled worker visa. For a person like myself, I know there are people who go with student visas, there are people who go with the dependent visas, but I have to go with a skilled worker visa. Now, when I go with a skilled worker visa, I have children. I am a father. I can't leave my children behind. I love my children. If the UK is good, then I can't leave my children and go alone. If I love my children, I am a father, a responsible father. If I go to the UK, I have to go with my children. So I will go with a skilled worker visa, then I have to look for dependent visa. Then I will have two types of visas, my skilled worker visa, and my two children will have the dependent visa now that I don't have a wife. And when I reach there, it means that I will be renewing these visas with at least £1,000. That's more than 100,000 Kenya shillings. And you know, renewing those visas is expensive. And the UK cannot just allow you to stay in that country. I think in the US they call it green card, but in the UK they call it indefinite leave. Indefinite what? They call it indefinite leave to remain, something like that. So before you apply for that, you have to stay in that country and keep renewing those visas all the time. So that is a major expense. When I look at the salary that nurses are getting paid, and then when I look at how I will stay in that country, then start renewing these visas every time, my visas and the dependent visas of my children, that is nearly £3,000 to renew those visas. I think it is another financial expense that these guys are not looking at, but it is happening. That is the first one. That is my first fear, by the way. You keep renewing visas, and you are not even sure if you will have the final visa of indefinite leave to remain for you to be a citizen of the UK. Now, that is my first fear. Now, the second fear is about the cost of living. Now, when we talk about these foreign countries, we only look at the income. We say they have a lot of money, but we don't look at the cost of living. When I go there, for example, as a father, I don't have a wife. It is a better place. I go with my children. That means that I have to look for a nanny. And do you know how much nannies are getting paid? Do you know how much I'll pay for schooling of my children? Do you know how much? Now, imagine I have two children. I am a single income household. Then I have to educate my children. If I marry another woman, will she accept in the UK to be in the UK and then start footing the bills that involve these children? No. That woman will think that it's a burden. She cannot just get married to me, then start helping me to foot the bills of these children. So you have two children in school, you are paying very high fees, then you need a nanny, and at the same time, you are paying rent, which is very high, cost of living, and at the same time, you have to renew their visas. You see, what time will you ever find to save money? These are the things I'm thinking about before I leave. So don't say that I'm despising the UK. I'm just trying to weigh options. That before I move there, how will I navigate that system of renewing their visas, paying the school fees for my children, paying the nanny, and paying rent? Okay? So it is, I think about that, and then And you know, that is not the only expense. Another expense is the mortgage. The mortgage that the UK government will give me, because paying rent is so expensive. Somebody will say that you can be given a mortgage and you start paying. Now, when you reach the UK, one thing I know is that they will give you mortgage. Mortgages usually you pay for a very long time. And so they give you mortgage and then they trap you in the system. You have to pay this mortgage until you finish. And this mortgage, you can pay it for the next coming 30 years. Now, if you pay mortgage for 30 years, and I am 35 years, for example, you know, I will finish paying that mortgage when I'm 65. And you cannot tell me that I can get a lot of money to pay it faster. Why? Because I'm going there with a degree. I don't have a master's right now. So when I go with a degree, I will get like just some basic small salary that I will start paying rent, paying nanny, paying school fees, and then you find that you're paying mortgage. And then in the UK, you cannot operate without a car. You must have a car. So you have a car, you have mortgage, you have fees for the children, you are paying the nanny. How will you ever make money to even start thinking of relocating back to the country? You cannot come back. That is why when I check all the people who went to the UK, they are not coming back, but they are not saying the reason why they are not coming back. But from my village in Africa right now, where I'm recording this video right now, I can just sense that they have very high mortgage, they have very high school fees for the children, they have very high car loan repayment, they have very high expenses, and so they cannot come back home. And now something that made me wonder a lot about the UK government when I was reading about it, it is the pension scheme. You know, the UK system is very expensive for the common person. I will be a common person when I go there. And so when you have car repayment, you have mortgage, you have school fees, you pay the nanny, you have to run your expenses, you have to send money back to Africa, when you do all those things, you remain with nothing. So you start looking at retirement. And the UK government says that when you retire, we will be giving you 240 pounds per week. You know, 240 pounds per week is roughly about more than around 40,000 shillings per week. Now, in Africa, that is roughly more than 160,000 shillings per month. That is a lot of money. But now I want you to look at the economic status in the UK, the amount of money you need to spend in that country. Is 240 pounds per week really enough to afford you a decent life after retirement? Especially considering that it will be you and your wife. It is not enough. Now, even though it is not enough, now let's look at this. For you to get those 240 pounds per week, you have to work for 35 good years. You have to contribute to the National Insurance Fund for 35 good years. That means that if I want to benefit from that, I have to work for the UK government for 35 years. Now, I am 35 years right now, and you are telling me to go to the UK. That means that for me to get 240 pounds per week, I have to work for the next coming until 2060, 70 there. I have to work until I'm 70. Then I retire, then I will be given those 240 pounds per week, then enjoy the money for like 10 years, then die. You see. Now, I am wondering, is that even enough to cover the cost of life in the UK? Now, the most shocking thing is, if I go there, somebody will tell me that you don't need 35 years. You just need to work for at least 10 years for you to get that money for pension. Now, if you don't work for 35 years, you will get roughly 120 pounds per week. 120 pounds per week is not enough for you to afford a decent life in the UK. Now, I want you to get this very clearly, that when you are still a parent, when you go there, now as a 35-year-old, you are not a very skilled with very high education. You just have a bachelor's degree and you go there. If you decide to go back to school, you will take a loan to go back to school. Then you will take another loan, a mortgage. Mortgage is simply a loan. So you take a loan to go to school. Then you have mortgage, then you start your expenses, which are not enough. You are sending money to Africa, so you have to again go and start borrowing money, maybe against your house or against your car or anything. So you find that you are always in debt in this system. And you know the US and UK, by the way, these developed countries like people who are always in debt. Why? Because they lie to you that you are building your credit score. There's something called credit score in the UK and the US, that if you have a good credit score, you are a very good citizen. So credit score simply means that you are in debt, but you are paying a lot of interest on loan. So you are trapped in the debt system where you are paying the money that they gave you, and then you pay with very high interest. Now, what if you go there with a mentality that I want to use my own money that I will earn? You will not survive. That one you are not going to survive, because ask anybody in the UK who lives there, and then they tell you that they use money in their pocket to do their own things. They cannot tell you that, because the system values when you are in debt. And so you have to keep borrowing to go to school, borrow for the house, borrow for your daily expenses, and you have to borrow, repay, until you reach the time of retirement. Now, the UK system now entices you with, we will be giving you £240 per week. Now, for a person like me, I cannot get that amount, because I cannot work for the next coming 35 years for the UK government to contribute to the National Insurance Fund. That means that I will work for between 10 to 30 years. And that means that I will qualify for roughly £120 to £180 per week. Now, will that be enough to afford me a very decent lifestyle when I get old? No. Will I be able to relocate to Africa with that kind of money? No. And that is why I want you to check and ask yourself, are people in the UK relocating back to Africa? A lot of them. No. Why? Because that system does not allow them. It doesn't allow them to come back home. So when you tell me that we have better opportunities in the UK, that when I go there, I will just work for 10 years, then accumulate money, then come back home, it is not practical. It is not practical, because the moment I step in the UK, I have to get a mortgage, then start paying that mortgage. If I don't get that mortgage, it means I have to pay rent, which is very high. Then if I decide that it's a good country, I have to go with my children, I have to start paying school fees. So the moment I step in the UK like this, I cannot say that I can make money within the next coming 10 years and come back home. No. I'll just be spending money, then I will not make enough money to come back home. So I think for my friend who is in the UK, the best thing I will do, let me make some decent amount of money, then I will go to visit. I will go there to visit the UK. Let me make some decent amount from maybe this YouTube channel and my other ventures. Then when I get some few pounds, you know, in the UK they talk about pounds. When I make some few pounds, I will book a flight, then go to the UK, then enjoy life in London, then try to maybe go to another, you know, those small highlands that they have there. Try to go to another highland there, then try to check life there. What do they eat? I study their culture. I study what happens in the UK. Then after that, I will come back to my village in Africa, then continue living my normal life. Not because that I hate that place. No, because it is not practical to say that I'm going to live a better life there. And then within a very short time accumulate enough money, then come back home. That is not very practical. But for people who went there to the UK, I really envy you. You are already there in the system. I don't know how you are navigating there. I don't know how you navigate that system, but I just wish you well. No, that one, no. The only place I usually desire to go is the US. But again, I wanted to go to the US as a young man with no wife and kids, because that one would have allowed me time to advance myself before I commit myself to my wife. But now that I have children, you know, the US system has a lot of intelligence. It will ask me maybe to grant visas to my children. And when I go there, you understand, paying school fees for 2 children in the US. Again, I hear people now say in the US that there are no jobs. Have you seen, by the way, there are so many people in the US who say that they can't find work. They say they cannot find work because there are challenges. In fact, companies are laying off a lot of people. Then we have people who cannot find work, a lot of them. Some people say that they have applied for jobs for a very long time, but they cannot get work. They cannot get work. Now we are wondering, is there a shift in these developed countries? Are they now starting to experience problems that third world countries have experienced for a very long time? I'm asking that because, you know, when you say that you are in a developed country and then you see a lot of people on YouTube in the United States of America, a superpower, a land of opportunities, a land of dreams, saying that they cannot find work, you know, it's not sitting well with some of us. We are wondering what is happening to some of you in those countries. So I don't think there is a very better place to be. I don't think there's a place that you will say that now I have reached here, now I'm living a very, very good life. Although there are some places where, like, I think, is it Norway or where? Is it, I don't know, or Singapore, where the government pays nearly everything. Maybe that's where you can go and say that you, like maybe Qatar, citizens of Qatar, the government pays for nearly everything. But to become a citizen in such a country, it is very hard. So there are countries where really they treat you better as a citizen, but it is not these countries that we know, the US, the UK, and maybe Australia. It is not a place you can say that now I want to rush and go there. Although Africans, we fight so hard to go to Europe, we fight so hard to go to the US, and you know, those are things we think about. The only place I can decide to go if given an opportunity, and I think maybe from what I read, not from what I know, some of you may say that that is according to what I know. From what I read, it is the US. And even with that, I'm still very skeptical because I can't go to the US and marry. I cannot go to the United States and get a wife because I know that system very well. I know what wives do to husbands in the US. I know the effect of marriage on men in the United States. So if I go to the US, I'm remaining single. But how will I be feeding my desires? It is so complicated. So let's navigate this life as we go. But surely, I am traveling to the UK to just explore life. I'll be traveling just in a few months. I will go to the UK, then I'll take other few months. If I get a visa just to travel for a very short time, go to the US, then come back. I just want to experience life as a visitor and see if probably what I missed and what I'm not missing, then I will have exposure. I'll have exposure and a lot of knowledge about those countries. Because right now, I'm speaking from the point of reading, not from the point of experience and personal knowledge that I have experienced firsthand. So as I prepare to travel, that is the information I know. Maybe my viewers have a different perspective. I don't know, because in this world, we have limited knowledge. You cannot know everything. Probably my viewers know something different from what I know. You can tell me in the comment section about what you know, probably the misinformation that I have, and probably something that I got correct. Thank you for listening to me. This is Gedia Kali, and we shall meet again in another video, and I am out.